We raised $1.3 million for Massie from thousands of small donors. This is Clint Russell writing this. The very next day, Miriam Adelson signed a check for the same amount, $1.3 million. Our Israeli donor, not our, but one Israeli donor, offset thousands of American voices because Massie forced the Epstein files. Well, what can we say about Miriam? Well, Donald Trump said it all.
Miri, you and Sheldon created a lot of relationship over the years with politicians at the state level, especially at the federal level. I want you to share with everyone why is it so important and how do you do it? Again, writing checks is part of it, but there is more than writing just checks. So how do you do it?
Can you allow me not to answer?
I don't want to say what I'm really doing to America. And of course, Donald Trump was at a meeting with her, and he said, I don't know. I think she loves Israel more than she loves the U.S. Who do you love more? She wouldn't say, right? And so it says everything, doesn't it? Her silence speaks very loudly. Thomas Massie's introduced this bill, the AIPAC bill that he was talking about earlier. As a matter of fact, as I said at the beginning of the program, when you look at the people who stand against outside money, whether it's Joe Sobran, whether it's Frank Nicely, whether it's Thomas Massie, they always come after them with a vengeance. And you can't get any more outside than a bunch of Zionist billionaires. Like I said before, they're outside of the country, not just outside the state. They're outside of the Constitution. They are outside of morality. They're the true outsiders. And so he wants to amend the AIPAC Act. The Foreign Registration, he calls it the AIPAC Act, is to amend the Foreign Registration Act of 1938 in order to clarify the definition of foreign principal and to ensure transparency and lobbying on behalf of foreign interests. As he said before, I have to say at the beginning or the end of every commercial, I got to say, I'm Thomas Massie and I approve this message. They don't want you to know who's funding these messages. Since its inception in 1954, AIPAC has circumvented the registration requirements under FARA by virtue of being established as a domestic lobbying organization, legally distinct from the parameters that the Act defined. Again, when we look at it, if you say this is just a domestic organization, you could essentially say that about all the K Street lobbyists. Well, they live in America, this is where they work and so forth. That doesn't mean that they're not agents for a foreign country. AIPAC was created by Isaiah Kenan. He was a lobbyist for the Israeli government. He had previously served under the Israeli Ministry of Foreign Affairs. He worked as an information director of the American Zionist Council. After he raised $65 million and $73 million in the U.S. Aid for Israel in 1951 and 52. Folks, that was huge. Multiply this by the declining amount of the dollar, and you're getting up into hundreds of millions or maybe even billions of dollars. So he was getting worried that the State Department was going to come after him because he wasn't registered as a foreign agent under FARA. And again, he had been a lobbyist for the Israeli government. He had worked for their Ministry of Foreign Affairs. He raised between $65 and $73 million for them in the early 1950s. He was, by every reasonable definition, a foreign agent. But in order to escape that, he created the American Zionist Committee for Public Affairs to navigate around the registration requirements under FARA in response to that concern. Then they renamed that the American Israel Public Affairs Committee in 1959, AIPAC. And again, the AIPAC Act would amend this FARA legislation by adding a fourth paragraph saying, additionally define a foreign principal as any organization, association, corporation, or other entity whose lobbying activities or stated missions is either wholly or in part to influence U.S. public policy or government action in furtherance of the political or economic interests of a foreign country or recognized state-affiliated political entity. It would also establish indicators for determining the foreign political alignment of lobbying firms and allow American citizens to file complaints with the U.S. Department of Justice to request investigations into potential FARA violations, because we know the Trump Department of Justice isn't going to initiate anything against AIPAC. So for some reason, he said, they're immune right now. And I think it's not just the money that's spent in politics, but it's the lobbying that it's happening on Capitol Hill that should be reported if it's a foreign country. Whether it's Great Britain, Australia, Turkey, Qatar, or Israel, it needs to be reported. And we need to have more transparency. And so right now, here's the situation, folks. 80 members of Congress, 15% of Congress, list AIPAC as their all-time top contributor. Think about that. 15% of Congress gets more money from AIPAC than from any other special interest group. Isn't that amazing? I find that to be abhorrent, quite frankly. But, of course, Trump bragged about that. He thought that Congress should be owned by Israel. Remember this?
Well, the biggest change I've seen in Congress is Israel literally owned Congress. You understand that 10 years ago, 15 years ago. And it was so powerful. It was so powerful. And today it's almost the opposite. You have between AOC and Omar and these people that hate Israel. They hate it with a passion. They're controlling Congress, and Israel is not a force in Congress anymore. It's just...
You need to give me money.
I've never seen
I'll do it for
change.
you. It's a sales pitch.
I'm talking about over a very long period of time. But I think you know exactly what I'm saying. They had such power. Israel had such power, and rightfully, over Congress, and now it doesn't. It's incredible, actually.
Hire me. I'm your goy.
What?
Yeah, let's.
Why do you think, Colonel, President Trump unleashed Prime Minister Netanyahu to resume genocide in Gaza, which unfortunately resulted, I say unfortunately, it was intentional, the killing of 400 civilians in the past 2 days?
I don't think he has any choice. I think when he ran for office, he made certain agreements with major donors. These donors move far beyond just Miriam Adelson, and these donors oblige him to effectively underwrite whatever Mr. Netanyahu wants to do. I thought it was interesting that a recent meeting was set up for the United States with Azerbaijan to talk about cooperation with Israel, but it was set up by Mr. Netanyahu. He called and made the arrangements with Mr. Aliyev, who's the president of Azerbaijan. The State Department did not do it. I think we're very much in the grip of the Israel lobby, and I think President Trump is obliged to go along, and I don't see any evidence that he's going to diverge from that path.
Does he have no choice but to back up Israel militarily when it attacks Iran?
I think so. And keep in mind, you always have the possibility that a war is precipitated somehow by Israel somewhere in the region with Iran. The Iranians respond. And the expectation is, with the buildup of force in the region, we're sending additional carrier battle groups over there right now. The expectation is that we will reinforce whatever the Israelis want to do. We've already done all of the planning for joint strikes and joint strike packages.
If they want to kill all the people in Lebanon, there's nothing that we can do about it, right? Are we worried that Lebanon is creating a nuclear weapon? No, it's because Israel wants their land. They're genocidal terrorists. The stranglehold that the pro-Israel lobby has over the American political system is clear, as the AIPAC Act currently only has a 2% chance of passing, following its referral to the House committee. Think about that. You got 15% of Congress lists AIPAC as their biggest donor. And you've only got a 2% chance of requiring them to register as foreign agents, when in reality we know they all are. This is what we mean by Zionist-occupied government. Boebert is now in the crosshairs for supporting Massie. And again, as not National Review, but the New American, John Birch Society, points out, she has a 93% score on the New Americans Freedom Index. One by one, Trump, the New York Democrat, is driving out everybody who's ever voted for conservative principles. And got to get them out. And got to get out anybody that's not owned by Israel. She said, I knew the risk when I agreed to stand by my friend Thomas Massie. And she knows that it's going to be, what they need to have at this reflecting pool where Trump is so focused on right now. And of course, there was a contract that was out showing that this massive increase that went up by a factor of 10 in terms of, I think it's 7 actually. It went from like 1.7 million to over 13 million. So it's like a factor of 7. But the reality is that was the original price. It's just that Trump lied to people to get this thing started. And he is so focused on this reflecting pool. Isn't that appropriate for somebody who is such a narcissist? It goes back to the Greek legend of Narcissus, who is so focused on his reflection in the pool. They should make a golden statue of Trump on his hands and knees, staring at his face in the reflecting pool. I think that'd be a perfect reflection of the man. The common man. They created Common Core to dumb down our children. They created Common Pass to track and control us. Their Commons Project to make sure the commoners own nothing. And the communist future. They see the common man as simple, unsophisticated, ordinary. But each of us has worth and dignity, created in the image of God. That is what we have in common. That is what they want to take away. Their most powerful weapons are isolation, deception, intimidation. They desire to know everything about us while they hide everything from us. It's time to turn that around and expose what they want to hide. Please share the information and links you'll find at thedavidknightshow.com. Thank you for listening. Thank you for sharing. If you can't support us financially, please keep us in your prayers. thedavidknightshow.com.